Good morning and welcome to Office Hours, the show where we answer your technical media production questions every single week. Courtney, what's up first?
Well, the first one comes in from Mr. Guy Cochran, who's here on the panel, and I think he's going to toss a Cochran here. May I show the Blackmagic Cloud with a Web Presenter HD stream routed back down to the Blackmagic Monitor app?
You are so polite. Yes, you may. Go right ahead.
May I? May I please? Okay, so last year before NAB, Grant Petty had made some announcements. This year, he made a bunch of 2110 announcements, and we're like, hey, what about us ATEM guys? Well, the stuff that he showed last year is now starting to work. So Ronnie and I had some fun playing with Stream Router, but I didn't pipe in one of my devices that could send SDI. So we were just playing with like Blackmagic Camera app, and that was pretty cool. So anybody could do this for free right now. You could download the Blackmagic Camera app, go on your iPhone, attach the Blackmagic Cloud app to make an account, send video up, and then you can route it back to, say, YouTube, for instance. Or there's another app that's been renamed, and it's called Blackmagic Monitor app. I believe it used to be called DaVinci Resolve app. So this is an app that'll run on your iPhone. So what I'm going to show here is just what it looks like to send SDI up and then back down. So here's what the Blackmagic Cloud Stream Router looks like. So if you log in and create an account, you'll get something like this that says sources and destination. So right now I have a source, which is it's a what do you call it? Web Presenter HD, and this is what it looks like. If you were to log into it, it would just basically, if you had a couple of them. So I wasn't sure because most people use this just as like a USB capture device, but it does with the latest update allow you to stream to the cloud. So when you open up your interface here, there's not only audio tab and setup tab. There's a new one here that's Blackmagic Cloud. So when you log in, you could then select that as your device in the stream router. So here I have it. You see that Web Presenter is now input 3, and it's got this little blue light indicating that it's attached. You could even assign this to somebody else. So like Courtney could have a Web Presenter, and he can send me his feed, and then I can route it to, let's say, my YouTube channel. So we'll do both those. Actually, we'll kick it over to YouTube as well, just to see what it looks like. So here's a side-by-side of what it looks like. If we have on the left here is the a Mac running stream. What is this? Syncer Live. So Syncer Live is going up, and on the right side is my iPad coming back down. Look at how tight that is in sync. So that's going all the way up to the cloud and coming all the way back down to an iPad. So you're seeing on the right side the output of, I'll show you the iPad in my hand here in just a second. That's what it looks like. And if we go back over to our other machine here, let's go to 5 and cut back to 5. You could see here that we could also output to a destination. And if so I'll do a test onto my test YouTube account. So this here is the YouTube Studio, and I just hit on air, and it's basically going to receive that stream now. And again, it's routing up to the cloud. So I could be selecting any source here that I have. Let's say it's Courtney's stream. I could say input, and I could route it to that output. So now it's let's see, is it getting the stream yet? Come on. Preparing the stream. Come on, come on, come on. So on air.
Try refreshing Studio.
Oh. Refresh. This is a live demo.
I've seen weird bugs with that web page.
Well, it worked before when I let me
well,
go
there's
off
the beta badge on there, so they really meant it.
And then here, let me show you the app here. So this is a new app. So this is running on the iPad. So this could be your iPhone, iPad, and you'll have a monitor. So just with the Blackmagic Camera app, you could just shoot stuff up and then have it pulled back down on an iPad app. But I thought it was interesting that an inexpensive device, because I thought you'd have to buy like their streaming decoder and their streaming encoder, and those are like $745 each. I was able to just do it with a web presenter that I had, Web Presenter HD. So it's the newer one that I just had laying around. So I thought people would find that interesting just because the the latency is super quick. It's way faster than I thought it would be.
Yeah, that looks really, really interesting. Ronnie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, a few things I missed there is the option to be able to set the SRT parameters like the latency, etc. But I think that is something that probably will be appearing there if enough of the users will require it to be able to set those manually. And another thing, Guy, did you test to have one source being output to multiple devices, or did you, as me, just purchase the single output? So the license model is you pay per output. So if you need just one output, you can have, in my case, I could have, I think it was 15 inputs pre-configured and assigned to people around the world or clients. And of course, you can only have one of those inputs going to the output itself. But I've seen other examples where you can have only 4 inputs, but you know, I'm from Europe. Maybe there is something they forgot to limit for us people. And the other thing is, did you test to have one output going to multiple output destinations?
I don't know if you can do one to. I'm pretty sure when you click, and this is why that didn't go live actually, is because I didn't do this, which is you do need to tell it which source you want to stream. So you got to click one. Actually, let's see. So this is the input. This is the output that's now streaming. You can see that that's now live. And then if we go to this output as well and check the iPad, which I just closed it. Let me open it back up. The iPad. Oh, did it die? Oh no,
It lost its little indicator. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so you can do 1 to 2 or 4 or 15 in your case.
So
oh, you guys aren't seeing my
it, yeah.
you guys aren't seeing my my other video. Let me cut back to me. Yeah, so it's streaming to YouTube plus it's streaming to the iPad app. So for a low latency client monitor or sending this to somebody afar to catch your show, I mean, you could send somebody a nice stream. I have not gone into the streaming where you could choose low, medium, or high and created a custom output. So right now it says it's sending like 5 megabit, but it looks pretty darn good. So I'm interested now to see what happens if I bring it up to like 40 megabit SRT and see what happens. And this is the older HD model. So they do have a 4K model that I believe will do HEVC. So there is a reason to pay the $745 and get the
Guy,
bigger
I probably missed it, but the sources for the inputs, where are those coming from and what type of sources can they be?
So they can be a number of different things. In fact, if we go to edit one of these, you can choose these icons. So you can see like the broadcast camera has the built-in encoder. So some of the URSAs have it. Studio camera, the Pixis has it. Cinema camera, pocket camera, the phone. I'm not sure what switchers do it. And then here's what I'm using, the stream encoder. And then they've got some outputs here. Let me see if there's any other ins.
Oh, even Resolve?
Well, except
even Resolve
NDI?
can send.
No, I guess it
No.
won't be NDI. It's Blackmagic.
Oh, come on, Blackmagic and NDI.
Come on, Courtney. What are you trying to do here?
That's funny. That's awesome. Thanks for that demo. Just a reminder that you can ask questions on this show because the show is live. So if you're tuning in right now and you want to be part of the show, part of the community, what you got to do is go to officehours.global/join. Put your name and email in there. We'll send you the links to be part of our community, which consists of a multitude of things. That includes Discord, a fantastic place to chat with everybody in this global community, as well to participate live in the show and post those questions in our Q&A system, which we call Makana. And you'll get a login there. And when you go in there, you're going to see the ability to post those questions, vote on them up and down, kind of like Reddit. And of course, the live chat component. And you're missing half the fun because there's lots of people in there chatting and offering their different opinions and experience in there as well. All right, Courtney, what's up next?
Coming in from Tulum, California, Chuck Hodges. And this, I think, is a QR code. This is a QR code question. How do we get the live video onto the little Stream Deck screen buttons? I would like to show live webcams and previews of the inputs from Zoom or from vMix or OBS or MimoLive inputs and sources. or other things directly on the buttons we are pressing.
I didn't know you could do that. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Well, so the entire Stream Deck is just a display, and there are some buttons on top of it that actually just pushes down on the kind of touch display that is behind all the buttons. But be aware that the refresh rate on that is really slow, so you wouldn't get motion video. And there are some plugins for BitFocus Companion that are actually doing this. I can't remember which one, and it really taxes the USB bus that it's connected. So if you have multiple Stream Decks, it will really tax the output or the bandwidth of the entire bus that you are connected to. But this is kind of a good idea for some token usage, vibe coding something. Maybe I just use my weekend to vibe code something. I haven't seen any plugins that does this thing specifically, at least not from Zoom. So it could easily be done, I think, at least in theory. And there are probably some of the plugins that already support this. I've seen this with the different types of dynamic content going into. And the Stream Deck, the original Stream Deck application also does this for a multiple of plugins or devices. But I haven't seen this for BitFocus Companion specifically.
Yeah, I was going to say about BitFocus Companion because that's what I use, and I don't use the Stream Deck app. It seems more likely maybe that there would be a plugin, like you said, Ronnie, for the official Stream Deck app. But I'd have to dig into BitFocus. Let's see if there's anyone in the. Just looking at, there's some comments coming into the chat. Nothing specifically about this. Oh, there were comments earlier about the whole Blackmagic stream router saying Jeff Keith was saying I would not trust this in any of my workflows. Big note for me. Well, it is a beta, to be fair, and this is just like it's a very nascent product. So of course most people are not going to put that into production if they're getting paid for a job right now. But I think over time we'll see if that changes. Ronnie, you wanted to come back on this Stream Deck question?
Yeah, Jeff just posted in the chat that Central Control do this for vMix and TriCaster workflows, and he also says that you shouldn't be doing a Stream Deck multi-view to do your cutting. You should use a real multi-view for that.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to the next question.
Next one comes in from Paul Volhus in Austin, Texas. He says, office hours users and panelists don't do green screens. What would change that?
Courtney, what do you think?
Well, Paul, you're not looking very closely because occasionally David Brady comes in from New York and he has a green screen. And half the time we don't really even know that he's on a green screen because he's got an Ultimate from Blackmagic. So a good green screen compositor does a really good job as long as you've got a really well-lit green screen. It's sometimes very hard to tell if it's properly adjusted. Now, they do have green screen matting on, within Zoom, and they do have the background removal and background replacement, but it usually looks so bad coming out of Zoom that, parts of your body disappear, come and go. Your shoulder will disappear and come back, depending upon if it has a wire running across it or something. So we generally try and stay away from it because it's so annoying when you have someone who is wearing headphones, let's say, and one of their headphone ears keeps disappearing and reappearing and disappearing and reappearing, or the microphone will come and go. The ones that create a difference, Matt, are really ugly. But if you've got a green screen, it can do a decent job because it won't make things disappear and reappear.
And Ronnie?
Well, on one of the specials that we have last week, or was it this week? I can't remember. Times flies. We had people from Socially You talking about green screens. And I think one of the practical reasons for why people on the panel here in office hours does not have green screens as their primary way of creating backgrounds is twofold, at least. One is physical space. You need some distance from the camera to you where you have your front lighting, like I have here, 45 degrees up and to the sides, and creating a beautiful face and let me become even more prettier. And the other reason is you need some distance behind you to have that green screen lit perfectly and not have any of that light spill onto you from the back. So the distance is probably one of the biggest reasons. And of course, software-based keying is getting there slowly. Some of them are getting pretty good. But I think you also need some decent hardware like Blackmagic keyers to actually do the keying well for a live show. So I think those are the two major factors. And of course, cost is one of those.
Yeah, and what does an Ultimate go for nowadays? Because obviously they've dropped the price of that thing. Is that more than, is that like 10 grand, or what does that thing go for?
I
No,
think it
it's a little bit
depends on
cheaper, but
the
you can have
on
the
the
HD for some less. But still, the thing is that you need an entire workflow that is SDI based for one. And I'm thinking that the ultimate versions that are out now, the hardware versions of that, they're getting a little long in the tooth. Why don't they kind of come out with a new 2110 thing that we can use $10,000 or $20,000 on?
That's probably next up on their list of things to do. They had an overwhelming amount of new 2110 products announced this year at NAB 2026, but obviously they've got more stuff in the works. And I just wanted to prove to everyone that I am not using a green screen. I'm going to touch these panels back here. Look at that. Right there. It's real. You can see the shadows and everything. All right, next question.
All right, next question. I was just looking up the prices. Ultimate. They start at $559 for the baby one, and all the way up to $2,000.
Okay, so that's actually really cheap.
Actually, yeah, 2,500 is the most expensive
Yeah.
one. They have the
Wow.
12K.
Amazing.
All right, next question comes in from you, Mr. Knight, from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. Anyone experience performance issues with recorded video from an ATEM Extreme ISO when recorded at 1080p 60? No issues at 30, but when I change things, real-time frame rate dips in resolve down to 12 frames per second sometimes, using a MacBook Pro M3 Max computer with 32 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay, so there's two parts to this. So there's two odd things that happen. One, the first thing that I noticed, actually, before I even talk about the performance issue, is that in the last two shows after that change, I looked at the project folder that the ATEM creates with all the ISO video files, and now suddenly all 8 inputs now have 2 video files. It has one that appears to be, well, must be most, or if not all, of the entire length of the program for the recording. But there's a second file that's really, really tiny, that's like, maybe a gig or two, that's only like 6 minutes long or something like that. So I don't understand why it's creating 2 separate files. And then there's the issue now during playback, which I have a pretty beefy MacBook Pro with an M3 Max processor and 32 gigs of RAM. And it seems to be in the last, and I can reproduce this, the last 2 recorded projects towards the tail end of the project, if you just scrub through that timeline and go close to the end and hit play, you can see the real-time frame rate for playback dips from like 60, like all the way down to as low as 12, and it gets super choppy, and I don't understand why it's doing that. Let's go to Courtney first and then Ronnie.
Well, I would wonder if it's encoding on the ISO, if it's encoding all the channels, whether you have video coming into them or not. It could be taxing, overrunning the buffer, of the MacBook Pro that it's using for encoding, the encoding buffer. And once it overflows the buffer, maybe that's what those short files are. It starts out at 60, it gets so far, the buffer overflows, it goes, uh-oh, I ran out of video, start a new video, video interrupt us, start a new video file at a lower frame rate. And did you look at those 2 segments on each input and see if they were consecutive? In other words, time goes from one into the next. That would explain that, perhaps.
Yeah.
But
I need to look at that
I
again.
think you just may be overwhelming the buffer capability of, if this is an extreme and you've got 8 inputs that it's trying to encode simultaneously, it's just running out of RAM. to
The weird
encode.
thing is that there's only two active, like there's only two cameras with actual data. Like I have other cameras connected. Well, it's actually ISO recording this camera as well, so that's data coming in. But some of the other channels on the ATEM are just like recording black. So I don't know if that has any impact on the encoding process, but it's really strange that it seems to be towards the end of the file. Ronnie?
Yeah, so I was thinking if there was something in the bandwidth limitations in the USB. Are you reading this back from the same disk that you are recording on? That was my first thought. And normally the read speed would be larger than the write speed. So even if the ATEM is able to record at full frame rate and have no problem with the recording, it should normally be no problem at all reading those files back in real time. I would think the opposite would be kind of a gamble. And also this note that you said that it's happening only to the end of the file. I'm starting to wonder, maybe you are filling up this SSD. Never fill up a SSD more than like 70%. That's my kind of rule of thumb.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that. I basically use it just to record, and the episode length is, we record for say 90 minutes to 2 hours, right? And then I move the data immediately off that drive. There's nothing else. It is only being used just to, you know what? Actually, I should take a look. You know what? I'm going to look at the drive again and double check if that's the case, but I'm pretty certain that's the case. Guy.
Yeah, which drive are you using, and is it on the approved
Yeah,
list? And have you?
it is.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I died because I've been bitten by that before, but this one's been rock solid. So, and it doesn't report any recording errors, and the recording definitely does not stop in the middle because I'm monitoring it closely. So I'm using a Samsung T9 2 terabyte drive, which is one of the newer models because I know the T7s had a lot of problems, but the new T9 is approved by Blackmagic.
Yeah, the way I would do it is just because those are low bit rate anyway, the ProRes format on a hyperdeck, or I have 9 key pros over here. So anything that matters, it goes through the key pros, and it goes into it goes into a hyperdeck as well for the program. And then I have the ATEM Extreme to do basic records for fast turn stuff. But yeah, I mean, if it matters, I would go external deck and use something something
Yeah,
full bandwidth. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's the move. I've been putting it off for a long time, but I think I mean I would prefer to record in ProRes because that's just a much better codec for editing, anyways, and clearly seem to be pushing the limits of the ATEM. Just to bring in some comments from the chat too. Mickey MacJor is saying if the performance varies depending on where in the clips you are playing back, that may be a side effect of working with interframe codecs, and I believe that too. He was suggesting transcoding to DNX HD or ProRes, which I'm probably going to start doing. And he recommended at least the vanilla 422 ProRes codec. Leo Mendel saying, is the ATEM getting hot? Are all your inputs running at 60? You may be pushing the conversion chips too. That's another thought that occurred to me. But I mean, the product was built and designed to record ISO all the way up to 1080p 60. So it strikes me as odd that it can't do what it's advertised to be able to do. So there may be something else going on there. Leo also suggested disconnecting any inputs not in use. So yeah, I've got a bunch of things to try. I'll check the drive again and run some diagnostics. And maybe the next recording this weekend, I'll remove the HDMI inputs that are not actively being used, and then come back at everyone and report back. All right, let's move to the next question.
Next one comes in from right here in Los Angeles. Rajan Shandil asks, what NAS are you using on your local network, and do you trust it?
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I'm using an older Synology, and it's been running for like 7 years. So yeah, I'd say I trust it, and it's got a backup drive, and then it backs up to the cloud as well. So it's got a pretty simple interface. It's yeah, I mean, for what it is, it's not fast. It's not the latest 10 gig, which is what I would love. If you want big fat storage and big money, you're gonna be paying for it. I was just at a client's, and I was looking at the rack that I was working on, and it was 8 terabyte drives times 24 redundant, so 192 times 2, and I did the math in my head. It was like $150,000 just in drives for our local storage. So That's a pretty nice solution if you need that kind of throughput with Arista switches, and you're getting like 6,000 megabytes a second. It's pretty crazy. Over 100 gig as well. It's bananas.
And Courtney.
Well, I'm using a Western Digital Cloud NAS, and I don't trust it at all because it's had several exploits that I've had to patch it for. So I don't have the wide area storage turned on to it since I'm retired now and I rarely leave the house. So it's great for transferring files between my different computers, but just keep it on the local area network. And I don't enable the wide area access to it from outside on the interwebs. And that gives me a little more confidence in it. But there are exploits out there for those Western Digital NASs. And mine is about, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years old, 2 terabytes. So I don't trust it at all.
And Ronnie.
Yeah, we have a mix of QNAP and Synology and a few older ones that are getting really, really old and ready to be replaced. And something that I've been looking further into after the last update from Ubiquiti for their UNAS series, the software is getting there, at least to the point where I am willing to put some money into that and invest in some of those. I'm not sure of the more simpler versions of the 2 and 4 bay kind of home NASs, but the Pro series is really looking interesting for us, and having those spread out both in our home offices or in the studio or even at friends' companies, we are able to offload and have multiple duplicates of the data that at least are for our clients. Our own internal data is more like office documents and is probably just being offloaded to the cloud as we do these days either way. So I'm just looking that Ubiquiti has gotten some really good features in their software for the UNASs, and they are looking promising to me.
All right, and Chris Sabato.
The UNASs are interesting, and like it's weird because I'm not a Ubiquiti person, so I see the UNAS and it's like, that's interesting. I don't use any Ubiquiti stuff, so it's not for me, and so I just completely write it off. And I wonder if it's something I should probably look a little closer into, and if it's worth digging into without the full Ubiquiti infrastructure. It's kind of one of those. It's similar to Apple. Like I don't want to get like an iPad because I don't use Macs and I don't use it just kind of, it's like is this might be the best product, but is it so tied in with its infrastructure that it kind of turns off the people who aren't fully in?
All right, let's move to the next question. Courtney?
Sorry, caught me with my mouse on the other screen. Brody Hefner from New York City asked, there seems to be turmoil in the world of production studios with old ones closing and new ones opening around the US and around the world. Do production pros now travel more or relocate to find work? And he's got a link to something in production news, which I haven't looked at.
Well, I think Courtney has a little bit of production background, so go ahead.
They are. What surprises me is there's very little work in Hollywood right now because a lot of it is running away to distant locations that, provide incentives, bribes, to producers to shoot within a certain locale. So a lot of incentives are being offered in Europe right now, and of course in Canada, and some states like Louisiana or Georgia, but even Georgia is apparently down right now in production. So I don't understand. They're building new stages here. Universal just added 8 large stages to their collection of empty sound stages over at Universal Studios. And LA, their Echelon Studios is building, there was an old Sears store down at Santa Monica Boulevard. They've torn it down and they're building, I think, 4 new giant sound stages there for production. I don't know what they're going to put in them, whether it's going to be commercial production. With I'm seeing more and more AI produced commercials, so that's going to cut down on stages. A lot of smaller stages have either disappeared or they've switched over or are making an investment to bring in virtual stages. They're bringing in an LED wall and trying to do a virtual soundstage setup for virtual productions for commercial and insert stages, things like that. So I don't know. It's interesting to see where the work is going to go, whether as far as the union goes and working on those things. The way the rates work is if you travel, if you're hired in Los Angeles on a union production and you travel to a distant location, you get paid the Los Angeles rate. But if they hire you at the location and it's a IA union production, they pay the area standards agreement, which is a much lower rate. So they do get to hire local people surrounding the local area at a much lower rate if they're doing a union production. So they tend to hire locals that live in that area. And if you are, let's say, living in Los Angeles and you want to relocate because a movie that you want to work on is shooting in Georgia, you'll have to pay your own room and board to set yourself up as a local in Georgia, and you'll have to probably pay the local that covers that area, dues to that local that covers that area while you're there, because they're going to do it under the area standards agreement. You'll get a lower rate, you have to pay extra dues, and you have to travel and pay for your own lodging. So it becomes pretty cost prohibitive if you're out of one of the major production centers like New York or Los Angeles and traveling to a location that has used incentives to lure the producers there. There have been new incentives in Los Angeles right now. There are 147, I think, films that have signed up for the California film incentives, low budget incentives to shoot here in California. So hopefully that will be a boost in production this year. So it remains to be seen how many it is able to attract from foreign locales.
Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas asks, can you combine co-working, co-living, and production?
Well, Paul,
Oh,
there's a lot of things
yeah.
you can do, but the question is, should you? And that's up to debate, not up to me decide, but for the greater community. And we can talk about it, certainly. In my opinion, and from my experience working with a lot of people want some separation between work and their home lives. And I'm not sure, even I'll just speak for me. I don't know if I would feel very comfortable with that. Go ahead, Courtney. What do you think?
If you're working on a long form production like a theatrical feature or episodic television, uh, episodic television people tend to get their own, accommodations. If you're on a feature, we're used to living in a motel or a hotel, or some people will a lot of times rent a house. Like 4 crew members will get together, rent a house. They'll use their per diem. They'll rent a house and they'll each have a bedroom. Because when you're working on a movie like that, you're on the set for, you got to get up before dawn, get into the transportation that takes you to the location, and you work a 16, 12 to 14-hour day, and then they drive you back home, which could take another hour in traffic, or drive you back to your, wherever you're staying, the hotel or your location where you're renting a house, let's say. Uh, and then, by the time you get home, you're dead tired. You're not going to be interested in preparing dinner, doing anything else. You want to fall in bed, get about 6 hours, 7 hours of sleep, and wake up and do it all over again. And you have, the weekends, if you do have 2 days off, and a lot of times on location, they'll be working 6 days. So you'll only have one day off. And, that's your only day to do laundry, take care of buying any incidentals you need to buy, that kind of stuff. So you're dead tired by the time you start all over again on Monday morning at 7 a.m. or, 6 a.m. if you got to catch the transportation. So uh, there is a lot of co-living that goes on. Co-working is obvious, but whether or not it's shared, a lot of times the actors will buy a house and set themselves up there because they can rehearse scenes together which is kind of handy. If they're rehearsing for the next day's production, they can all be together around the dinner table and rehearse, read their lines for the next scene. So actors find it pretty conducive to working, but they get sick of each other after a while. You know, you need your privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like people also agree in the chat. Rajan Chandel said, no. And Mickey said, no way, get me my own apartment, a hotel room. Rajan came back and said, I've done it for shorter shows, but tough over 5 days. So there you go, Paul. Next question.
This one comes in from Robert Linkram in Belmont Shores, California. At external sites, my MacBook Pro detects the venue's ATEM Constellation HD, but does not connect unless I tether my iPad hotspot to the MacBook Pro to my iPad cellular internet MacBook Pro and ATEM software current. What's going on here? No IP network, USB-C connected.
Guy?
I'm curious as to if it's his or if it's a venue's ATEM. You can go into the admin and you can change this little setting right here. Somebody must have changed it maybe for a reason, that the connection priority is set to mobile instead of to Ethernet, and the allow utility administration via USB might be checked instead of via USB and Ethernet. I mean, the common way is to, connect to it over a hardwired Ethernet connection. So I'm curious as to what your settings are, but you can just go ahead and do a factory reset if you can get to this this screen and go DHCP if that's what the network is, and see what happens and see if you could connect to it. Hopefully that's the trick.
And let's go to, I think I messed up the order here. Did we get Ronnie? Ronnie, you have a comment?
Yeah, so I've seen this for some time back. Nowadays, we only use Ethernet for everything. But there is something that I remember, that if you don't have if the Mac does not see a DHCP or are using fixed IPs, even if this is USB, if you connect to the ATEM using the USB cable, it sometimes responds back to the Mac that it's actually a Ethernet bridge interface, and actually says to the Mac, hey, use Ethernet on this connection. It's like connecting an Ethernet dongle, if I remember this correctly. And if there is no DHCP in this that tells the Mac where the internet is, it kind of talks to the ATEM and says, okay, you're on network, but there is no DHCP and I have no information, so I will be degrading this connection and just don't use it. So even if it appears there when you connect it, it will not continue to use it. And what I think is happening here, and I emphasize think, is that when you connect your iPad using the hotspot functionality, the iPad is actually telling your Mac that, oh, there is a DHCP here, so you can still use this interface in some way or another. I would recommend what Guy says. Start using fixed IPs, and when you go to that specific venue, just change your network profile on your Mac and everything will be good.
All right, Courtney, what's up next?
Next, coming in from Craig McFarlane in Boston, Massachusetts. Do you have any AI surprises this week? Good, interesting, bad?
Chris Sabata, what are you working on?
So it's not so. This is one of those shake my head in amazement, right? Like it's like this unbelievable that this is it, but absolutely amazing, right? So I have, for the last 10 years, I've been working on this tool that parses some XML stat data for games and formats it in a JSON format so it's easily readable by vMix for broadcasts and all that. And it's this thing that I've been working on and fine tuning and tweaking for 10 years, right? And I had someone reach out to me and ask me some questions about some things, and my answer was like, well, I have this Python tool that I've been working on for 10 years, but I can't really give it to you because you don't really know Python. You're not going to be able to figure out how to work it. You're going to have to install Python. And so I got to thinking, and I had Claude build a basic version in PowerShell. And so in 10 minutes, I had this PowerShell script that did 80% of this tool that I've been working on for 10 years. And it's just like, this is, and I can just like, here you go. Here's a single file. You don't have to install anything. You just have to run it, and it works, and it gives you exactly what you want. And it's just like all this time and energy that I spent on my Python tool over all these years. And it's just like, here's 90% of it in 5 minutes without doing any work. And it's just kind of like, it's like I said, shake your head in amazement. It's like unbelievable.
Next question.
Next one comes in from Tommy Shantz in St. Paul, Minnesota. I had an Orei HDMI splitter go bad on me this week. I have it powered on 24/7. Is it better to power it off? I got 4 years out of it, but the troubleshooting was exasperating.
Courtney.
I don't know which one you had. You know, I was looking at these ones here, these 1x8s. I'd look at the power supply. If the power supply failed, it may be an easy fix. Just get a new DC power supply for it. If the power supply is good and supplying plenty of current at its required, I think 12-volt voltage, whatever the voltage input is on that power supply, then it's cheaper. These things are not very expensive. I think this one is, you know, $70 for a 1x8. Buy another one. You know, I would leave it on 24/7. Powering it on and off causes more surge, and it also requires every time you connect something up or power on connect a new source input, which is turning it on and off, initiates this. It has to renegotiate the EDID handshake and HDCP handshake. So leaving it on 24/7 and leaving it connected to whatever it's feeding it is probably better, because it's not going to reinitiate that handshake each time. So it does a little less work, stays a little cooler, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd leave it on all the time if you're not worried about, you know, killing the planet.
And Chris Sabato.
Yeah, I have a handful of these products. I have their 4x4 matrix. What it's the AV, the whatever the protocol is for sending HDMI over Ethernet, over an Ethernet cable. I can't remember what that's called. But I have a couple of those. I have a couple of the HDMI things, and they've all been fine. But at the end of the day, like, they're, like Courtney said, they're cheap, they're inexpensive. Like, if one fails, after 4 years, I'm like, well, I got my $25 out of that HDMI splitter. So yeah, it's one of those things where it might be, and if it's something you think might, if it's really vital to your work, buy a second one and just buy two of them and have them on the shelf, and they're there. And yeah, they're cheap, they're inexpensive, and you get what you pay for.
All right, next question.
Yeah, it's no, I can't remember it.
HDCP, yeah.
No, HD base T is the Ethernet.
Oh, that's the right. Yeah, that's
there.
The,
It is.
HDMI
yeah,
over Ethernet. HD
That's
base
what it
T.
is. Yeah, HD base T.
Yeah, CP's
Paul
copy
Walhus. Next question is Paul Walhus in Austin, Texas. What are the best live crews where YouTube influencers, etc., that were running around NAB, aside from Guy and Omar, of course? And he has a Comcast, a link to some coverage.
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, that was a fun show. I mean, I really enjoy doing this for the community, being able to bring people like Courtney and Jeff Keithley virtually there and let them ask questions. We're a little unique in that we're actually letting folks on the far end talk to the people on the floor, which is rather interesting compared to some of the ways that the other guys do it, where they're just reading questions. But I really enjoyed the coverage from Gotham. I'd say that they're my favorites, even though it's all audio. You know, it's not like a bunch of video. We had Aaron Parecki. These guys at the B&H booth, I haven't heard of them before, but Nick Brigadier was the host of that glass booth that they had in C, and I walked by this a couple times. Really nice setup. You know, it's expensive to be able to do something like that. Not live were Synody, Churchfront. So those guys came up. We ran into Doug Johnson. He later did an upload. This guy, I saw him last year as well. Mark Arnett. He got a ton of views, 5.6K views, and I believe he's just using like something super simple, like an iPhone, maybe even. And then we had, of course, our friend Aaron Parecki. I'd say Aaron probably is my favorite of the of all the influencers that were there. Who else? There's somebody I've never heard of, the Laughing Lion. He got 5.1K views, and it looks like he's just kind of cruising around. Very bumpy. It looks like he's going up and down, up and down. So those are a few that I see if I just type in the search NAB 2026 live. Those are the contenders.
And Courtney,
I was trying to find it to bring it up, but yeah, I agree. Aaron Parecki's stuff, and I was watching one of his videos, NAB interview videos, popped up in my YouTube stream last night. I was watching it, and he was interviewing one of the major people at Blackmagic in their Blackmagic booth about the new 2110 stuff and why they weren't doing anything with the old ATEM lines. So they were talking about, this year they weren't making any improvements to the ATEM minis, the extremes, any of that stuff. But what's curious in this interview, it's a sit-down interview on a couch there, and in the background during the whole interview, we see our own Jeffrey Powers setting up for an interview about the Fairlight Live directly behind him. So you see Jeffrey setting up his interview for Fairlight Live right in the background of Aaron Parecki. So, and Geekazine, which is Jeffrey Powers, did do a lot of interviews also from the site.
and just a reminder, if you're enjoying this show, there are ways that you can contribute and support what we do here. This show, Office Hours Global, is entirely driven by a fantastic community of volunteers. So whether you're interested in joining us on the panel here and contributing and answering these questions, bringing your own unique experience, or if you want to join the crew, there are various positions available. So if you want to find out more, just go to officehours.global/join. That's officehours.global/join. And of course, subscribe to the show. And you can also donate by going to officehours.global/donate. All right, Courtney, what's up next?
Next one comes in from here in Los Angeles. Rajan Chandel says, Apple Vision Pro. The internet suggests that this product may be nearing the end. How do you see the product and maybe smart eyewear in general?
Courtney, what do you think?
As far as augmented reality, it can have its use in smart eyewear with AI attached to it. The glasses that look like normal glasses that don't weigh 1.5 pounds and require batteries every 40 minutes, could be useful. I think just as useful would be an in-ear monitor that you can just tap on and ask it a question and get an answer clandestinely. The problem with eyeglasses that have cameras built in, there's a privacy issue, which is what killed Google Glass and will probably be killing all of the other versions of head-mounted, cameras. Of course, these days everybody's wearing a body cam. At least all the police officers are, and a lot of other people have, YouTube, especially at conventions and things. Everybody's got a GoPro or something strapped to their chest or their hat or whatever. So you're on camera a lot, but I think there's a lot of backlash to that, and the utility. For Vision Pro specifically, where it's augmented reality, it depends on cameras on the head-worn gear and the ability to stick images that it generates into your real-world point of view. They've tried it many, many years ago, and HoloLens went out of business finally stopped producing that, and now Vision Pro is discovering, there just aren't that many necessary applications where it's useful. And it doesn't warrant the cost of the headset and the maintenance and the cost of developing for it. It's just too expensive to develop for, and there's no real, in the 20 years or so where they've been around, they haven't developed a useful, anything useful in business or, there are very few vertical market applications for it. So it just doesn't warrant itself as a practical product.
I wonder how many phone calls Apple got about people losing their email client in the bathroom in Vision OS. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Yeah, in 1995, I think I tested the first glasses or big gaming displays. I think I had 240 by 160 resolution, and newspapers went, "Hi, ooh, yeah, this is the future." And that was in think it's 95. And when everything kind of went the other way with 2D and good displays and good audio and home entertainment, etc., I found these less and less interesting. And I have to say, for normal users like me, an old grumpy guy, I stopped using my Apple Watch because I had to charge it every day or every night. And for me, the experience of 3D or glasses or AR is kind of cool as a concept. And if they get a really, really good power source for some glasses that could be similar to this and presenting AR information in front of me while I was walking in the streets or whatever, I would probably think of using that, but it had to have power for at least 2 to 3 days. For more specialized applications like building, so BIM, documentation for builders to pre-planned building projects like hospitals, and see if the corridors is wide enough to have patients also out in the corridors, etc. I think those usage scenarios are really, really cool. To be able to use it for a specific thing or exploration or testing out ideas and visualize things before you actually have to use a lot of money to build that physical stuff. I think that is a good application for technologies like these. But for a home user, there are very limited use cases, and I don't see a future where this is a technology that will survive. It has to change a lot before I would even consider buying something like that.
Guy?
Yeah, the Meta Quest has sold 26 million units. The Apple Vision Pro is at about 600,000. So, you got this massive price disparity with $3,500 versus I walk down to Costco and pick up a Quest for like $400 or $500. And so one's more for gaming and for entertainment. The other one's pushing the limits of technology. And so we got the early adopters like Alex Lindsay, who bought one and, paid whatever. It was a lot of money for the bigger one. And I think Apple's going to come out with another one that's just less expensive, and it'll go to the masses. So the technology is wonderful. And we saw it at NAB that the immersive camera, they were shooting live right into it. So this whole 2110 with 128 router inputs to be able to do something like that, I imagine it's because they want to do things like this. On another front, one of the more interesting things that I saw at the show was somebody, I won't name names, but had these for their speech, and they let me try them on. And it's a teleprompter inside of the glasses. And while I was trying it on, his wife texted him, and the text came across the screen in front of my eyes. So it's this green, text that looks very like old school DOS in the early days of computing. But these are called the Even Realities smart glasses. I'll put a link in the chat to those if you guys want to take a look at them. But they're fascinating. So the technology is still evolving. I have a pair of X-Real glasses that I still use. It's like having a massive TV in front of you. I use them when I fly. They're not as great at resolution as the Apple Vision Pro, but they were also only $400 or $500 compared to some of the other models.
Yeah, and from what I've read and what Mark Gurman has announced, so the hardware in its current form may be dead, but it doesn't mean that Apple's not going to experiment with other better form factors once the technology is there. And I heard that the Vision Pro team last year was shifted to working on Siri, but the operating system is definitely not dead. They definitely have more plans to evolve that software and use it in other things. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, like everyone said here, $4,000 piece of hardware that you got to wear as a big heavy helmet with a tethered cables. Not the greatest form factor. Next question.
Next one comes in from Craig McFarlane in Boston, Massachusetts. A coworker had an issue with their computer backup. Do you check your backup setup regularly or just when you feel nervous? When was the last time you checked?
Ooh, that's a good reminder. Chris Abato.
For personal stuff, I don't check. I don't have enough data to like everything is either in Dropbox or Google, and so I'm just trusting that they're doing backups, right? And so for work stuff, that's a whole nother issue. And we don't have backups, and I've been trying for 10 years to get a backup system implemented, but it costs money, and so it's just kind of it's there, and hopefully it doesn't go away.
Courtney.
Yeah, I'm one of those crazy people who pays a subscription to Carbonite to back up certain folders on my primary computer. So plus I have two other backups. I've got the Western Digital NAS backup, which I back up all my. Now, I do not make any image files of the hard disk or anything, so I don't back up any computers completely. Just the files that I regularly need or that are changing on a daily basis. I back those up to a little plug-in SSD that has 2 terabytes, 3 terabytes, and I've just automated a script file that'll back up several folders to that. When I just click an icon on the desktop, it'll just back up everything in those 2 folders that has changed since the last time it did a backup. So it just checks to see what's new. What's changed since the last time I did a backup, and it does that. And I back one up to the NAS, do the same backup to the NAS and to the local drive. And then Carbonite works in the background and automatically keeps things up to date in the cloud. I've never had to go to the cloud Carbonite to restore anything that got munged. So I always keep at least 3 the originals on my computer and 3 individual backups, 2 one attached to the computer, one on the NAS, and one in the cloud. So I feel pretty confident, although I don't check them regularly.
Yeah, and John Wallace in the chat says, for file level backups, perform and restore at least monthly to confirm it is working as you desire. And Ronnie?
Yeah, so for my personal file, that's one story, and for the business files, there's another story. So business is taken kind of good care of and tested sometimes in not as weekly or monthly, but at least quarterly. For my personal files, I'm an avid Mac user, so I trust iCloud to be kind of taking care of all my documents and project areas, and those are replicated to the cloud, and it's also replicated to all my other personal computers. So I have a number of machines that I'm using regularly that are logged in with my own accounts. In front of me, I have a Mac Mini, and I also have a MacBook Pro. I actually have 2 MacBook Pros and 1 MacBook Air, and I also have a number of machines. And the only thing is to make sure that if I create a new folder structure that is outside the document folder structure, I need to be sure that that is also taken care of and synchronized across all my devices, and not only synchronize as it's available in iCloud, but also making sure that the file's actually sitting on that disk on the different machines that I need to be sure of. So I'm sleeping good at night.
And to bring in another comment from the chat, Vic Hernandez said 3 backups, 1 on hand, 2 on-prem, 3rd in different geographic location. If cloud, make sure data center is in a different locale. All right, Courtney, let's go to the last question.
Paul, and it's a big one. Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas says, for sports or houses of worship multi-camera events, how do these platforms do things YouTube won't? And he has links to Boxcast, Blue Frame Tech, Apple.com streaming, stretchinternet.com, and sidearmsports.com. Duck.
All right, Paul maximizing the character count in the questions. Go ahead, Chris.
So the Apple one doesn't kind of fit in here. That's nothing. The other one, they're all streaming providers, and a lot of them, I would say, are legacy. They're from before when YouTube was just prolific in live streaming and video. And so 10, 15 years ago, if a church wanted to live stream its services, YouTube wasn't an option because you had to have so many followers to be able to stream, and it was harder to like watch on your TV. And so these companies, you could pay, and they would give you a portal that you could go to you could embed on your website. They would build out OTT apps for you, and so for like a church or sports team, like these made a lot of sense. Now they still make sense, but it's not as it was an obvious choice 10 years ago. Now the choice is not so obvious. One of the differences now really is, like, one of the big differences is not so much what these platforms do, it's what they don't do. And so for sports, when we broadcast a game, there's music in the background. There's always music in the background. And it's not like we're not necessarily pumping it through our feed, but it's there. And when you use one of these platforms, you don't have to worry about YouTube saying, "Oh, I heard that 4 bars of that one song, and sorry, you get a strike," or we're taking you down, or we're muting you, or whatever. That you don't have to worry about that because it's background music. We're not really violating copyright, but YouTube might think we are. So that's one of the things. One of the other things is support, right? So as a church or a small college where you're streaming and something's going wrong, if you're streaming to YouTube and you've got a problem, who do you call? Nobody. There's nobody to call. And so with these things, they have support, and you can call them, and they can help you work through your issues with what's going on, why the stream's not working, or what have you. So that's
Guy.
some of it.
Yeah, I would also add Resi into this mix. It depends on if you're doing live or if you're doing VODs, but Boxcast has hardware, and so does Resi, and some of these things will do massive buffers, and that's how they can get away with ensuring that a stream's pretty much perfect, even with low bandwidth, is they'll just push it out 30 seconds or even longer. And there's other things like being able to monetize, and I like Wistia for granular checking of who visited the video, how much what duration they watched, and then also if they rewatched a certain section. So Wistia, if you're doing VODs, is my platform of choice. So again, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to monetize it, if you're trying to get the highest quality, because then it comes down to like what encoders are you going, Videon or Osprey or High Vision or one of the other bigger bad boys that do HDR and 4K 60. So there's a lot more to this question besides just putting a bunch of links.
And Courtney, you're the final
Yeah, it
word.
depends on your application. One thing I look for if you're a house of worship or something is if there's a native app that'll run on most streaming boxes, on the Rokus, on the Fire TVs, on the any of this over the air, over the top streaming boxes, or in television sets. More importantly, if you've got a Samsung TV. There's always a YouTube app. There's a YouTube app on almost everything out there. I think your toaster can get a YouTube app that runs on it natively. So look for native apps that run on the plethora of devices are out there. That's what I look for, because a lot of people aren't going to be in front of their computer looking at it on a browser at a website. They're going to be on their phone. They're going to be on the TV. They're going to be on their, Roku streaming device, etc. So
Yeah.
I look for the native apps.
All right, just a reminder on coming up on Tuesday, we've got a great Tuesday focus special that we're calling Makers Who Stream, featuring 4 professional woodturners that are going to show their streaming setups and answer your questions. And you get to do a little behind the scenes and see how they run these video production workflows, often just by themselves. Should be really cool. And it's also going to feature Cindy Drozda as part of our community, part of the crew who's been on the show many times. So look forward to that at Tuesday. That's at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks to all the panelists for bringing your A game today, answering all these questions this Saturday morning. And of course, to you, the producers, for putting in these questions, who showed up this morning. You came through for us, because the show is only as long as you want it to be. So thank you very much. And of course, to the back end crew that wakes up every day to put the show on, to make sure everything looks and sounds great. Thank you to all the work that you do. And also, right after this show, coming up in about 30 minutes, or a little less than 30 minutes because we ran late, we have our new panelist and then panelist meeting. So if you're interested in being part of the community and learning how you can participate, remember, you can always go to officehours.global/join. You got to be on the mailing list to find all this stuff. And again, you got to be in Discord. We make announcements when those meetings start. So that's the first step to that. If we were to travel around the world to answer all of these questions according to the Talala Traversal, that would have been 21,000 virtual miles. That's 34,000 kilometers and 167 million bananas for scale. Yes, that banana for scale. It was episode 2230. All right, we'll see you in after hours. Just volunteers this week, not panelists, apparently.
As
can't
the
keep
wood
up.
turns.
Too many
That
meetings.
would be a good name for a Soap opera as the wood turns, or let the
As
chips
the wood
fall
turns.
let the chips fall where they may.
Let the oh god, rim shot. Where's the rim shot sound effect where we need it?
Yes.
All right.
Alrighty.
Have a good Saturday, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here. Thank you.
Adios,
Bye-bye.
amigos.